お、さっきと味違う。そうだ。いろいろあるんだよね。
Dude, you must have some way better taste buds than me. I can barely tell the difference between these things. We opened this new series with a few seconds of black that legit made me think there was something wrong with my player before we cut to an everyday scene of some pretty boy trying to escape from an obviously evil facility. I mean, it's every day for a Kamen Rider show at least. Hey Philip, you find any good books recently? But yeah, our new hero named Shoma managed to very fortunately escape through a random door that thankfully didn't lead to a Dome Brothers reference, but rather right above Japan. And judging by how far he is falling, I'm sure he'll be okay. I'm not dead! Anyway, unfortunately, we didn't get to see the opening sequence for this first episode, though they still played the music at the end of it. As such, I think we'll save my general thoughts on it for next week, as I kinda want to see some visuals to go with these tunes. I will at least say, I like what I'm hearing, and I am getting some subdued Revice opening vibes from it. Anyway, Shoma was woken up by this kid, who we'd later learn was named Hajime, who was surprisingly mature for his age, as while he was willing to help a guy who was clearly in need, he was also aware of the fact that he was an older fella who was kind of acting like a creepy weirdo who would pass out on the beach. But yeah, Hajime had gone to the beach to get some seashells to give to his mother. Something that Shoma couldn't exactly relate with, but no time to worry about that, as someone was about to be isekai'd. Jeez, Truck-kun has been off his game recently. Meanwhile, a freelance writer named Honto was trying to get some new material for his next book, so he decided to, rather callously, interview a wife whose husband had gone missing. I mean, granted, he did supposedly have a lead in that he had a crudely drawn picture of the culprit. Yeah, come on, dude. There would never be such a freaky-ass bastard like that out there. And sure enough, he was told off by his mentor, who suggested that maybe the wife did something to her partner, even though she showed no clear signs of guilt, and even clearly worried about him. Gee, I wonder who the actual culprit could be. Yeah, of course, it was the mentor, who handed over some people who had been sealed in some fancy picture frames, and handed over to one of the guys who was chasing Shoma. And he did all for this Yokon looking stuff, which, yeah, maybe that Kamen Rider double reference was more appropriate than I realized, because I do get some Gaia memory vibes from how desperately he wanted more of this stuff. Back with Shoma and Hajime, the latter showed him his secret hideout, where he kept his stash of sweets. Of course, he was going to treat him to some real food later, but for Shoma, some freaking gummies was more than enough apparently. He liked them so much that his tummy started to throw up through his second mouth. Man, don't you just hate it when that happens? Like to that one guy from the Yoshi's Island commercial? Hello darkness, my old friend. But yeah, this is the main gimmick of this season's Rider. He could create his own MacGuffins by consuming certain foods, mostly junk food, that would produce transformation trinkets and power-ups. And as for the traditional belt of the Rider, it was constantly stuck to his tummy, as it was actually a part of him as an organ.
Oh! Okay! In that case, do you think you could elaborate?
Yeah, obviously he wasn't human, but rather some sort of alien, and I actually love how Hajime just straightforward pointed that out. He also of course had to ask if Shoma's race ate them, which he quickly denied, or at least said he himself didn't. And before Hajime could dig any deeper, they were cut off because, come on, it's the first episode, they can't go that deep. But yeah, he needed to head home as his mom had just gotten back from a long business trip. However, as he was heading back, he passed by the mentor, who, after finishing his very chewy snack, he was still a little hungry. Wonderful Precure aired right after this, just wanted to point that out. Yeah, I think it might be fair to assume that little block thing might have been made from people! Or more specifically, humans. This might have been why Shoma's mother didn't want him to eat their snacks, as it might have given him a taste for the flesh. So yeah, our Kamen Rider for this season was a vegan, at least amongst his people. Anyway, the mentor tried to get some unprocessed food with his version of the Gavv, as Shoma called it, though it looked a lot more gnarly than his tummy buckle. And for those in the know, this is clearly meant to go hand in hand with this franchise's common theme that the Kamen Rider's powers were similar or of the same origin as the very monsters they fought. In this case, Shoma and Mr. Stranger Danger were both from a race called the Grand Mutes. Though this guy could turn into the series' first monster of the week, while Shoma was still working on the whole rider thing. Specifically, he was being held back by a barrage of tantalizing and gripping backstory, including seemingly being a test subject for something, and having his mother taken away and turned into one of those picture frame things, and being legit afraid to fight and yet still going into battle.
Stop. My penis can only get so erect.
Yeah, needless to say, if you saw this community post, did you realize these are just kind of the hallmarks of Junko Komura's writing? She just really likes to write tragic heroes who start from the bottom from a mental and or physical standpoint. They went through something truly awful, and yet from those experiences, they want to do everything to ensure no one else has to suffer like they did. Needless to say, this makes for some really compelling characters that even if they don't have the best plots backing them, you can't help but cheer them all the way, which is definitely why I'm feeling here. Though, and I guess it also helps that the writers can take some much more visible beatings compared to the other shows in this lineup, which I think Komura was more than happy to take full advantage of by having Shoma take a rather brutal beating, which did make his first henching all the more satisfying. Gavv's main gimmick seemed to be that he had armor that could be constantly replenished with his little buddies called the Gochsos, at the cost of being literally kind of squishy. However, it didn't stop him from protecting Hajime and his ungrateful mother, who called both of the Grand Mutes monsters.
そうだな、化け物だ。俺も。お前もな。
I am really starting to love this show. Anyway, the two had a pretty great first battle. I especially like this part where they were fighting between the cargo containers. Let me just grab this obviously keyed in cargo. Yeah, speaking from experience, hair is kind of hard to key out. It did lose some points when it became a chase sequence with some subpar CGI, as is so often the case with many gimmicky fight scenes from the Reiwa era, but at least they were creative in their low quality with stuff like this building sequence. From there, we got a bit more of a balanced blend of practical and CGI effects when Shoma used his rider kick Gochizo, which seemed to be the ultimate junk food power of orange soda.
Who loves orange soda? Kel loves orange soda.
I am so damn old. With that, the episode ended on a rather bittersweet note, with Shoma bidding farewell to Hajime through a note at his hideout and riding off on a bike that kind of looked more like it should be ridden by Revi's. However, he would be found a week later in the same way he started the series. Ooh, I really like this first episode, especially someone who prioritizes really developed characters. Shoma, right off the bat, is one of the most likable Reiwa riders so far, just by being a rather chill dude who does get serious when the time is right. And this is in spite of a rather tragic and yet really interesting backstory. Again, these are just kind of the hallmarks of Junko Komura's writing, who, in spite of this being her first writer series that she's head writing, I'm actually really looking forward to what she can bring to the snack table. Writing a childlike character can be tricky, especially when the character is clearly not a child. If done wrong, they can come off as just plain annoying and obnoxious, but Shoma got around this for the most part. Yes, he did get excited from eating candy, but he never went over the top, and more importantly, the show focused more on his childlike innocence. Yeah, all things considered, he was one of the most chill riders ever, which led to some great comedy like when he defeated Truck-kun, and just made him plain charming. It also made his first real fight all the more tragic when that innocence was forced to the side to make room for a rather tragic character who might have been experimented on and lost his mother to his own race, who were just savage monsters. And yet, the only thing he was worried about was making sure that others didn't have to suffer like he did. He could be denounced by both his own race and even the humans he was trying to protect. It didn't matter, as long as others could smile more than him. Shoma just made such a great first impression that was the real highlight of this episode, even before he henshin, and certainly had a great first fight. But again, like with even Wonderful Precure, I really like Junko Komura's character writing. Sure, her plots can get a little messy, especially near the end, but just by this first episode, and how she managed to work in most of the important hallmarks and tropes of the Kamen Rider, I feel confident with this one, and even then, I'm almost positive she'll do her lead right. And overall, this is just one of the best first episodes for a Reiwa era rider, and maybe even my personal favorite. Whichever mouth he uses, Shoma definitely deserves to eat the gummy fruits of his success. Thank you for watching, and if this is your first time here, maybe consider just doing what this little guy down here is doing. I'm not sure what it is. On this channel, we cover anime and tokusatsu, including the current Super Sentai with Boom Boomger, though we might have to turn it into a bi-weekly series since we're doing this show, but we'll see how things kind of work out. Look forward to it. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and if you'll excuse me, I think I should probably go get some more snacks for this season. What can I say? It's at least giving me a good reason to eat junk food, especially at my age.